2.
Sound is rolling. Camera B
यहाँ थोड़ा
is
fail हो गया.
rolling.
All right, 3, 2. What's going on, everybody? It's me, Asad Hashim Ali, back again with another episode of Behind the Grind, episode number 32 today. We've got a very special guest. Rafae Dossal is in the house. Rafae, thank you for
Hi
joining
everyone.
on.
Thank you for
Thanks
having
for
me.
coming on. So Rafae is an entrepreneur who's doing something very, very interesting. I never thought that I would have somebody on the show from this world, not the entrepreneurial world, but from what he's doing, from what his vertical is all about. It's pet food.
Yeah, pet food. Something very different in Pakistan, right?
Waggles.
Waggles. It is. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And if you know anything about the Pakistan economy, a couple of months ago, there's an import ban and everyone just lost their shit.
True that. Absolutely. This was in the end of May, actually. Yes.
Yeah. Is it still on?
No. They've lifted the ban.
Okay.
The economy still is in shambles, but nonetheless, pet food is still being imported.
Sahi.
So that's about it. I mean, this is how it is. But being a local manufacturer has been fun. It's been very different to be operating in a space where there's minimal competition and consumers have adopted the product well. So it's a good space to be in right now for the local market.
Great. Let's just hope there's no new entrants now. If it's that open.
It is open, I'd say, definitely,
Yeah.
because there's still a very few formal manufacturers working in the market. There's us, and if you look up on the SECP website, there's only us registered with SECP.
Okay.
So there's no one else doing the whole private limited shebang and operating on an official channel. There are people who are doing good stuff, but I feel that that's just like touching the tip of the iceberg. So
More
there's
like
a lot.
mom and pop setups.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, cool. So before we get into Waggles,
Sure.
the reason why I've called Rafae on is because I've been staying in tune with. Sorry for stalking, but of what you've been up to. You were in the media world, in the advertising world as well. You were
So
in
I'll
the,
just give you a little background about what I used to do before Waggles.
yes.
So I graduated from a local university here in Karachi. It was Zabist in 2016.
Yeah.
And after that, I never really knew. I was never studious. You know me from a while now.
Yes.
And just because of that, I was never really sure about what I wanted to do in life. So after university, I realized that marketing is something that I'm good with and I want to make a career in it. So after graduation, I joined a couple of advertising agencies that has a good plus side over here in the local market, considering you get to work on a diverse range of brands. So in my case, I worked for brands like a beauty cream brand and an instant noodle brand and confectionery brands. So that was a good mix of understanding the audience in terms of the local landscape.
But in the agency side, what were you doing mostly? Like, were you
The
involved-
messenger work, the useless work. I was in account services.
Okay.
And but that
Client
was
को खुश करना
हाँ,
और
client
team
को
को
खुश
brief
करना है
देना.
and was creative को सही चलाना है, and that's
Yeah.
about it basically.
Okay.
So it was a good fix to be in, but being myself, I got bored of it in like a very short span of time, and I realized, this is not fulfilling. It's just like a small component of the entire commerce picture per se. So that made me realize that I wanted to move towards the brand side, and I moved to Bisconi. So there I was working for Kokomo. Yeah, Kokomo. I managed that brand for good 2 years. And during that, we launched a couple of cake products as well. The children's market was growing, expanding. And generally, everybody was getting bored of biscuits, so they wanted to do cupcakes and stuff and shit.
Yeah.
So we got into a diverse segment. Exposure was sense mein keh lo कि अच्छा मिला उधर. Then it was, once I got into FMCG, then it was sometimes tea whitener, then it was sometimes biscuits, then it was sometimes super crisps, जैसे chips के brands जो हैं. But around 2018, 2019, by the way, I worked for a power utility as well, K Electric.
Acha.
Haan,
And
that
even
was a
over
very-
there, you were in marketing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in brand marketing for a very short stint.
But sticking to the FMCG side, sorry, you with all these like different like food items or jo bhi categories would be the right term, right? Like all these different categories you get exposed to. How were you involved actually with the product key development as well?
So see, when you're on the brand team, you are involved. You're basically in essence a business manager, right?
Yeah.
So you see what the consumers are consuming right now, where the trends are going, what sort of products need to be delivered and optimized on, what are your current product lines, out of which ones are performing better, and what campaigns to make to create. Sometimes see, brands are launched when people don't even know that they need that product. So when people used to use what do you call that, a soap bar soap for washing clothes, they never thought about using detergent powder, right? So someone came up with that detergent powder and sold them that thing, and brands like Surf have made huge tons of equity on the fact that the name is synonymous to the category.
Yeah.
So brands like Biscotti, for instance, have the brand chocolate chip cookies, right?
Yeah.
And it's a chocolate chip cookie. So
Yeah.
there are other local manufacturers with the same product, but they've owned the category name with their own brand name.
Right.
So this gives them an edge as to what sort of products are they making and how the consumers are receiving to the products, basically. तो बात वही है कि एज अ ब्रांड टीम का मेंबर ना यू आर एसेंशियली मैनेजिंग द बिजनेस एंड द ब्रांड एज टू हाउ इट्स ग्रोइंग, वेयर इट शुड बी गोइंग, और आपके टारगेट्स किस तरह सेट होने चाहिए और कहाँ पहुँचना है अपने नेक्स्ट 3-5 साल में. सो कपल द लर्निंग ऑफ आईड से डिजिटल व्हेन आई वाज वर्किंग फॉर द एजेंसी to the fact that when I moved towards the business side of the brand team, all of those experiences together made sense a lot when I was really like finding something to manufacture myself here locally. So everything was quite done to death, agar dekha jaye. So there's a lot of ketchup being manufactured, baki cereals, chips, juices, it's all very saturated. So I realized that there's no one doing pet food. And I think it was just like a moment of epiphany when I realized, chalo, let's just, see how it goes. So we started product development.
But how did that happen though? Like let's actually, before you get into product development,
yeah.
you don't have any pets.
Yes, I don't. Ironically, I don't.
Yeah.
I consider every pet of my customer my own pet. So you can just,
वो तो हम लोग schools में भी कहते हैं ना, सारे बच्चे हमारे ही हैं. नहीं, but yeah, so like because when I saw the episode with Muzammil,
right,
and
lovely.
it caught my eye when you said,
Okay,
I don't have any
brilliant.
pets, and Anusha said
Yeah.
she's the pet owner between you two.
Yeah.
But it got me thinking as well that how did you stumble upon that? You know, like ek hai ke were you looking and were you doing your own research on which space is empty?
Right.
You know, go into an Imtiaz, go into an Agaz and see कि यार aisles में क्या
Actually,
बिक रहा है.
actually it wasn't like that. Because had I known that this work is so capital intensive, I probably would have jumped ship to something else, to be very honest. But it was the entrepreneurial spirit that made me realize that this is something that no one's doing. And it's not like no one's doing it because there's no demand for it. It's a stable market here in Pakistan. It's a niche, but it still exists. So you need to create something of value that people would think and they would want for their pet to consume on a repeat and a sustained business. So when the business side kicked in, this was the whole aspect कि यार कोई और नहीं कर रहा तो खुद करना चाहिए, मतलब क्यों नहीं कर रहा कोई इसको. And the second phase was the fact कि यार अच्छा अब बना लिया ना तो अब इसको repeat पे कैसे consume कराना है.
Yeah.
So the whole marketing aspect to it was something that we did internally. How to create the brand identity, how to pair up with influencers, what sort of a product should we have. We started off with 2 basic recipes, chicken and sweet potato, and beef and carrot were the 2 products that we started off with. Now we have a portfolio of over 14.
Wow.
So in a short span of say 2.5 years, we first built a facility to mass manufacture products.
Yeah.
We worked on new product developments to launch in different verticals, both dog food and cat food, and then dog ka bhi rewarding segment, which is treats basically.
Yeah.
So all of these, and then insights from all of them coming separately. So every consumer is individual, right? Like pet parents can be split into 2 very broad categories in Pakistan, being dog owners, dog parents, and cat parents.
Yeah.
So they have a very different set of personalities in most cases. So the product की आप जो कहो ना कि जो formulation थी कि बना कैसे उस sense में, again the entrepreneurial spirit made me also do animal के nutrition courses, which I never thought I'd do. I was bad at studies, but I was like, yeah, this is something that no, I mean, it makes sense to be doing it.
Yeah. So what goes into it? Because I'm you started off by making all this at home.
Yeah, precisely. Yes.
Right. User testing आपकी किस पे हो रही थी?
Yeah, user testing मेरे partner के dog थे, उनके उस पे करी थी. I had good colleagues at my workplace, my ex-colleagues. So they had pets. So it was fun taking like samples to the office every day and being like, यार अपन pet को खिला के देखें कैसा लगा. And then following up with phone calls and messages के क्या, and someone sending in videos. Yeah, it's good food, like the dog's having it. Then at that point in time, so it was freshly cooked, right? So there was no shelf life to it.
Yeah.
So you make it in the morning, they keep it in the fridge in the office, and then they take it home and then they warm it up and feed it to the pet.
Yeah.
So it was the whole process, but they started liking it. And that's when I realized, yeah, actually the recipe is 19-20, like we're there. So how to like add shelf life to it.
Yeah.
That's when I paired up with my partners to realize, yeah, let's go scale karte hain, how to make it a shelf stable FMCG proper product that's exportable. So then the nitty-gritties then came along the way, how to,
and you had one eye on export from the get?
Yes, absolutely. Because again, the vision is to, make revenue for the country. In essence, you want to be operating in a league where you're able to contribute in a manner where it makes sense and it makes a difference. So bringing in foreign revenue to Pakistan and positioning it as a country which acts as an export hub in this region makes absolute sense. There are economies in the world, I'll tell you, for example, Vietnam and Thailand, their economies are based on processed food products, specifically seafood products, for human food and for pet food.
Yeah.
So it makes absolute sense for Pakistanis to also add value. Our problem is we just export frozen fish or raw meat or something of that sort. We are nowhere in terms of value addition towards exporting processed foods. And that's a huge requirement. The halal food market internationally is a $3 trillion market.
Yeah.
So it's a sizable market for a player like Pakistan to be operating in. Currently, the majority stake belongs to China, Indonesia, Vietnam.
I think last I heard, there's a local player that is now trying to get into the local, I'm not going to take the name, but a big spice manufacturer in the States, bleeding in, not just for halal processed, that category of masalas and dry fruits, but also like frozen foods as well.
Yes, precisely.
So, isme, before you, like, I'm still caught up.
We quite went ahead into the conversation.
Yeah. Like you
from product development to exports.
When did you start this?
We officially launched, like, the first official Dukaan ki parchi that we sold to was, say, on the 8th of January 2020. So I'd say January 2020 is when we started.
And this this supply of goodie bags to colleagues?
This lasted for good 6 months, from, say, July to December 2019.
2019.
So basically, when I started working on this, I was working with my previous company. It was an advertising agency. So I used to go back home, research on this, and start cooking, and then see raat mein samples hi ban rahe hain ki kis tarah se karna hai. Next morning, all final kiya, and then deliver kara. So it was a mad scene. But the good thing was that my parents weren't around at that time, and they were traveling. So I spoke to them, and they're like, "Is everything okay at work? I mean, why are you cooking pet food? Like, where did this come from? You don't even have pets." And sometimes you just need to find your own, this was a calling, to be very honest. So it's not like I was a smart ass to be thinking about this and, getting into manufacturing. This is just was dropped into your head. This is something that's not being done. How about you just give it a try and see how it goes, literally speaking. And everything else just, panned out in a way that raising money became something internally. I mean, we haven't externally raised funds, but bringing on board co-founders with me who had their own specific capabilities about how to go about business, how can they contribute to the brand, and where do they see themselves and their investment in the next 5 years. So
how did you get to that point? Because, like, I'm guessing that, if you want to go export, you want to build, you mentioned that it's capital intensive, so you had to make your own facility. 6 months going gangster. You also were like a mom and pop shop,
absolutely.
supplying from the house. Right after that 6 month phase is when you made a facility?
No. The facility took good 9 months to manufacture. So we weren't essentially manufacturing it in-house at that time. So you see these regular small mom and pop food canners that you have here in Karachi. We contacted them. I personally went to them, told them that I'll have this food. Since I didn't want to give out control, they didn't know what they were packing, essentially. The food was cooked at my house, and I used to send them the food on a daily basis. So they used to pack it and then send it back. So someone's doing like 100 cans, the other guy's doing like 150 cans. So 4 or 5 of these guys were making food for us. The cans used to come back to me unlabeled. I used to add value by packaging them, putting them in a carton, and then having them delivered. So this was the perfect supply chain. But the fact of the matter is that I didn't have a facility of my own to manufacture and enjoy the manufacturer margin there. Nor could I export from these small mom and pop. So I learned the process of manufacturing from them and then amplified that, say, like 10x on it. So if they can do 100 cans in a shift, we can do, say, like 1,000 in a shift. So capitalizing on that made a difference. कि अभी जैसे पाकिस्तान में भी आप देखो ना, there are not many large canning facilities just like they do in the other side of the world. I repeatedly mentioned Thailand and Vietnam because their economies literally based on these products. Thailand was nowhere on the list. 3 decades ago, they decided they wanted to be on the top 10 list of exporting pet food. Currently, they are on the number 3 of pet food exports globally, right after Germany and the USA. So
Pakistan में जो आती है वो mostly Thailand से आ रही है?
Mostly Thailand से आती है. Mostly Thailand. China is a huge supplier of pet food. China also didn't see the process of canning products is not something very new, right? So this has been around since the World War times. So this technology, I mean, China really amplified it. They went into the backer supply chain of making cans themselves. So we don't manufacture cans. We import our cans from China and then just add value by filling the food, putting the label on, processing it, and then sending it across. So we're very close to exports as well. We'll get on it on a later stage
Yeah.
or during the.
So what's your current operation looking like today? Like how much are you producing in a day? What variety? You mentioned 14 categories,
Right.
14 products in the
14
portfolio.
products, yes.
But like, how much are you producing? Where is it going?
Right.
And what's next in the production side of things?
Right. So we're doing around, if you say we are somewhere around 60-65% on our production capacity.
Okay.
This is also we have plans. See, there are manufacturers in the world who are doing. एक बड़ा misconception होता है कि as a manufacturer, you only if you have a pet food facility. It's not a pet food facility. It's a food canning facility, right? So you can mass manufacture any substance that can be preserved in a can without the use of artificial colors or preservatives or anything of that sort. And companies in the world who have licenses and certifications like ours, going through the whole ISO audit was a challenge and a half. Completing the HACCP certification was a challenge and a half, and the halal certification. Although pet food doesn't require it, but we structured our business in a manner keeping, again, companies like Thailand and Vietnam as an example, because they mass manufacture everything they can put in a can, basically. So you have companies doing sweet corns. You have doing companies like doing baked beans, and all of these products that are also processed in a can. In a similar fashion, they have brands for pet food. The facility is the same. The process is more or less the same. However, the brands are running independently for different markets per se. So that's the model that we're following. Right now, we reached around 60%. We're also expanding into dry pet food, which is another extension, which we aim on closing by, say, the next fiscal year. So we hope to be live with that.
Dry. What's the difference between dry and wet?
Okay, so there are two types of pet food, right? There's dry pet food and wet pet food. Wet is the one that comes in cans. Wet is more premium. If you look at a global perspective of this, the wet pet food category is growing annually, say 10%, because it's more premium.
Okay.
Ever since COVID hit, and actually before that as well, people prefer, see, it's an aspirational product. So it's something that people run towards and want. It's a healthier alternative as well. So just imagine consuming chips and biscuit, dry products for an entire life, right? It's not sustainable. It gives you health issues. It's the same with pets. So if you repeatedly feed them products based,
so it's more nutritionally rich.
Of course, definitely, yes. And it has more protein content. That's how we market it as well. For instance, cats are notoriously difficult water drinkers. They don't drink still water. They'll want water that's flowing. And how can you have water flowing all the time? So in that perspective, we build products that are rich with real bone broth. So it's like yakhni, basically. So it's a real broth for cats. So whenever they're consuming that product, they're also getting the right water intake along with the proteins and the other nutrients that they're supposed to get. So it makes sense to be feeding them a healthier alternative as compared to something that's not healthy. Plus, also we make sure that our products are very simply labeled. In essence, pet food category, there is a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of stuff going in cans that's not supposed to be going in it.
Which would exist mostly in dry food.
Even in wet. Even in wet. So the labeling laws are, I'd say, not lenient, but there are ways to go around it. So for instance, if you're mentioning beef formula, that's not real beef. There's only like 3 to 4% of actual beef going into the product. But it states formula. So that's a labeling complication that they go around and get away with.
That high fructose wali baat with.
Exactly, precisely. So इसी तरह जैसे हम लिखते हैं ना उसके ऊपर कि chicken and sweet potato recipe, for instance. So there's a reason why the word recipe is used, because it's fit also for human consumption in a way. We usually don't market ourselves.
That's what yours says. That's what Waggles says, like recipe.
Yeah. We have chicken and sweet potato recipe, beef and carrot recipe, puppy chicken and gravy recipe. So they're made in a manner where even it's safe to consume for you and I, and it's not like we're going to be like, it's not like we're going to puke it out or be like, what the hell is this or something.
But that answers a question I was kind of shy to ask.
Yeah, precisely. A lot of brands do market themselves as human grade or something that humans can also have. But I feel that the market that we're operating here locally, natural ka claim also confuses with organic. You're selling natural, you get questions pertaining to organic, and they're two very different things. So clarity in consumers, we're working on that aspect rigorously कि हम educate करें customers को as to how this food is different from the other one. Otherwise तो वो ये ना कि this can is for 300, yours is for 275. So you're a local player, you should be retailing at a lower price. But the fact of the matter is that doing things in a grey manner and doing things officially creates one hell of a large difference. So for instance, you have 17% GST on the product. Your distributor margins shoot as high as up to 20% on a product. and then you have your own expenses to cover. And the cost of manufacturing a product has become so high in the last, say, 6-7 months, that the premium needs to be, transferred on somewhere. So you make sure that कि आप अपना volume build करने के लिए इतनी price increases ना करो, which we haven't done. We have steadily increased prices. I will not deny that, but that has been over a huge span of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good market to be operating. And sorry if I'm deviating
No,
around.
not at all. It's interesting to hear because I've got a lot of. In my mind, I'm trying to connect the dots with what the journey's been, what you've also learned throughout. From a business angle as well, I'm thinking about that. If the margin, it seems like, is around like 10 to 15% per can. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, and you don't have to like. But if it's 10 to 15% per can,
for the distributors,
and then you've got
so see,
many.
For instance, if you're retailing, if the can is for 400 rupees on the shelf,
the
shopkeeper buys it for 360 rupees. He'll want a 10% cut on that. The distributor will want it for 20% off the 360. And then you reverse, once you start minusing the cost, then you have your own cost. By the time you reach the X factory price of the product, you're like, I mean, why are we even retailing in Pakistan? Because these cans go as high as up to say 12 or 14 dirhams in UAE. तो आपको बहुत edge मिल जाता है sense में if you're just like positioning yourself as an export player and ensuring that your product is crossing borders as compared to being retailed locally.
And this is what I was actually trying to get at as well, is that what is how's that initial like funding journey been like, and even right now, what are you doing to ensure that there's sustainability for the business too?
Good.
Price का एक element भी आ जाता है.
बिल्कुल आता है. So when you have, I believe, when the money is your own, you spend it differently as compared to a venture capital fund backing your project. I mean, it's far different from how it is like that. So it's I wouldn't say we are stingy manufacturers, but I'd say we're very focused on quality, which is why making it a sustainable business adds into the volume wali conversation. Unless you build the volume, there's no point in having a facility that can produce X amount of cans, but you don't have that X amount of volume.
But I'm also like so out of this industry and field.
Right.
Volume heavy, like are people buying?
In the local market, you'd say that volume is decent. But again, Pakistan में pet food is a niche. And considering the inflationary pressures जो अभी recent times के अंदर, why I agree to the fact कि जिसने pet रखे होते हैं ना, उसको 50-100 रुपए का खास फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा होता, उसको quality पे फर्क पड़ रहा होता है. So as long as you're delivering on the quality, the price sensitivity is somewhat, I'd say, inelastic. वो उतना issue नहीं होता उसके अंदर. But problem आता है जब आप अपनी as a manufacturer ability बना रहे हो ना बढ़ाने की. A customer really does not care if you're manufacturing the product from basement of a building, or if you have for example, a 4 acre की factory. They don't really give a crap as long as they're getting the same consistent product being delivered to them every single time. However, you as the manufacturer who's living and breathing the product that you're manufacturing need to be and should be focused on the fact that I want this to go to the furthest corner of the world. So that's the sort of ideology that we are finalizing, जो जिस पे हमने execute भी करा है कि अगर आप इतनी बनाओगे ना facility जिसमें आप सिर्फ पाकिस्तान को पूरा कर लो, तो वो literally एक कमरे से आप ऑपरेट कर लो, उसके लिए आपको ज़्यादा स्केल करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. बट अगर आपके एक्सपोर्ट विजन नहीं है तो मतलब फिर आप एक स्मॉल स्केल पे वो करें काम उसके अंदर. बट फ्रॉम व्हाट वी थॉट एंड हाउ वी डूइंग इट इज कि यार एक्सपैंड टू द ग्लोबल लेवल सिमिलर टू हाउ दीज लार्ज कंपनीज हैव डन. FMCG is a long haul. You can't be flipping money being like, yeah, I'm going to work on this project for like 2 years and be like, yeah, this is done. So in my perspective as well, the one thing I'd say that I've really learned in the whole process is patience. So the entrepreneur in me is almost always on fire कि यार किस तरह आप मतलब, but you have to understand कि this is not कि एक quarter या 2 quarter, you're in it for the long haul. So you can distance yourself as much as you want, but these problems are not to be mitigated over like a 3-month period or a 6-month period.
Rafae, I have to say this, hearing about how you're describing all of this so far, it really shows that whatever experiences you gained, you're putting into it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. There is no shying away from the fact that the hard work is still there. I mean, you have to be doing stuff that you never really envisioned yourself to be doing. आप कुछ चीज़ें वो भी कर रहे हो तो आप day 1 पे कर रहे थे. But at the same time आप वो चीज़ें भी कर रहे हो जो आप 3 साल बाद के लिए आपने सोचा था कि I'll be doing it, but you're doing it right now.
So I have some questions about the journey also. But before we get into that, what's the scene with export? Started?
Yes, we started delivering in UAE in Dubai. This was last month actually. It's not yet up on the shelves over there, but we have the website up and running. It's waggles.ae. And just like we have waggles.pk here locally. So pet food mein the acha part is the direct to consumer channel.
Yes.
Although when you're pitching to local manufacturers here कि यार हम ये business कर रहे हैं, e-commerce potential है, they're like यार distribution, I mean, is the name of the game. Everybody wants their product to be placed at Imtiaz, Al Fateh, Jalal Sons and all of these larger client base. They don't really, the typical mindset जो है ना एक local manufacturer का, वो e-commerce की तरफ इतना ज़्यादा नहीं है. बट अगर हमारे केस में देखा जाए कि जहाँ आपकी रिपीट ऑर्डर वैल्यू अच्छी है, आपके पास एक अच्छा मार्जिन बन सकता है उस डिलीवरी के ऊपर, और एक सस्टेनेबल बेस है, तो यू रन सब्सक्रिप्शन, दैट्स द perfect way to be selling and upselling.
Have you started that?
Yeah, we started that on our local website, not in Dubai, because
But that's linked through Daraz, right?
No, that's on our own website. It's waggles.pk. So we have first-time purchasers के लिए discounts running as well, 10% flat.
Nice.
And people who subscribe, that's wonderful for us because it's like sustained revenue and they don't break out of the chain.
I didn't know that because I was actually gonna get it. This is what my mind was thinking about. That okay, abhi sab, even like Food Panda started their subscription.
Yeah, yes.
Good, about time.
Yes.
I think that now Pakistan is also getting used to.
See, e-commerce has also evolved so much. I'll give you an example of ours only. When we started off and we contacted Food Panda, this is right when COVID started, and they were picking up categories left, right, and center to retail. So first we were on the Food Panda portal, delivering like a restaurant. We had this device, the order would come in, we'd just tap yes, we want to deliver. That's and the rider would come and pick the product from us. It's not like we were cooking and packing at that time. We had filled cans kept. But the model was that of a restaurant model. And now Panda Mart is say buying stock worth of north 5 million or so every month or so from us.
Wow.
So that's a lot of stock that just Panda Mart is moving. And that's all like from dark stores. So there's a sustained client base that we're also understanding. Yeah, these consumers could have bought the product from our website, but they're loyal Panda Mart customers, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to shops, physical retail. They're not coming to our website, but they're still buying from that app. So hence, they also command the category. And this is just pet food. Just imagine the number of chips or juices or Pepsi that they sell off the platform.
50 lakh यहाँ पे चले गए तो फिर मतलब.
Exactly. My point.
Damn. But so direct to consumer mein, how's that working out so far? Like
direct to consumer is amazing. That I'd say is the success behind how when we started off with 2 products and how we developed the rest of them. That was all because of direct to consumer. Because people asked us, if you have 10 people asking you, why don't you guys have puppy food? And the question is, why do we not have puppy food? We need to have puppy food. And in the same manner, questions started coming in around cat food. That took us a little longer to launch because dogs are easy to please.
Yeah.
They just need good quality food, and they'll have the same food from the first day to the end of the life. They will not complain.
Yeah.
That's not the same for cats though.
Yeah.
So they want their variety, they want their textures, they want the protein sources separate. They just want, the cats are royalty, right?
Hence that experiment you mentioned earlier.
True. Very true. So cats are like, you need to be, so we launched different flavors for cats. We launched with 4 different ones, 2 in chicken and 2 in seafood. So working with seafood was a different thing for us because cats ki generally, again, they like fish and they're more into seafood products. At least that's what we saw in Tom and Jerry, of course, all the time. So, and that was true. So it worked beautifully for us, Shukar. It worked really nicely. And I'm sorry I lost track of the question.
No, how direct to consumer, how's that working out?
Direct to consumer is nice because it gives us access to data. When we started off, we ran a sampling drive across Pakistan. That was something that I wouldn't say was a setback to us. That gave us a lot of reach because consumers in today's day and age are receptive to new products. They want to try it out. And there's nothing better than a manufacturer giving out free pet food, right? So you just fill in a short form online and we'll have a sample delivered free of cost to you, and you can choose whichever one you want online. And for instance, when we launched dog treats, we gave away around 30-40 cartons, I'd say. That's a lot of value. 4-5 lakh rupees ka stock samjho, in samples. Because people wanted to try it out and see kis tarah ka product hai, and can they, if the dog likes it or not. And it's something that's again not being done locally. It's a single ingredient dehydrated product. So it's just a piece of chicken that's air dried and then put into a container, sealed tight and delivered. So it's pure protein. It works beautifully like that. Direct to consumer gives us insight data again कि कौन से towns में ज़्यादा volume है, consumer segment कौन से different order कर रहे हैं, more females or more male audiences, and what's the more desired variants. Its data speaks for itself.
But how have you picked up on that? Because like it all starts off with a little hypothesis, right?
Yeah.
What did you pick up on that now you guys are going long with?
With direct to consumer, I have always been a fan of e-commerce. So my last role with the advertising
मैंने
agency,
खपनी पालनी है मैं किसी.
exactly. See, that's the benefit that you get out of being omni-channel, right? So you make a brand on e-commerce and then you go towards direct to consumer makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
आपने e-commerce पे start off करा, आपने दराज marketplace से launch करा, then you moved on to direct to consumer, then you took it to traditional retail जो brick and mortar stores हैं. That's something that आपने pilot test करके then you moved on towards launching it in retail. You don't want to just launch in retail without knowing क्या है, if it's going to sell or not. So there's a lot of optimization that needs to be done. Plus variants और जो अपने और भी चीज़ें बनाते गए, that was again just how I told you कि growing was easier because you get data real time. Okay, what are the consumers desiring out of the company, out of the brand, and that's how you keep adding value to it.
So yeah, okay, interesting. So last question about the business of Waggles before we get on to you. What's the plan looking like for you guys now? Like, what milestones have you set out for the next year?
So how we started out, next year, so it seems like just like next week, literally speaking. So
by the time this goes out, it'll be next year, I'm sure. He won't let that happen.
तो जब हमने स्टार्ट किया था ना, तो उस वक्त ये था कि यार वैगल्स तो एक ब्रांड है, सही है, मतलब इट्स जस्ट लाइक हम एक चीज़ पेट फूड बना रहे हैं, वी आर एडमेंट ऑन मेकिंग पेट फूड एंड दिस इज व्हाट नीड्स टू बी डन, दिस इज हाउ इट इज. देन लास्ट ईयर आई रियलाइज कि यार पेट फूड तो इज वन ऑफ द थिंग्स दैट वी आर डूइंग. देयर आर अदर कंपनीज आउट इन द वर्ल्ड, दुनिया में तो देखें ना कि हो क्या रहा है, बाकी लोग क्या कर रहे हैं, थाईलैंड में किस तरह से कर रहे हैं चीज़. सो वी ऑल नो ऑफ दिस ब्रांड कॉल्ड जॉन वेस्ट दैट मेक्स tuna products.
I don't know.
No, really?
No.
They make like canned tuna and stuff like that. All of that stuff that's very famous.
Bro, मैं केमाड़ी जाता हूँ मच्छी खाने. मैं ये कैन भी नहीं खाता हूँ ये चीज़ें.
ठीक है, समझ गया, got it. So John West बड़ा एक मशहूर ब्रांड है. US पुराना ब्रांड था, बट थाईलैंड की कंपनी है, थाई यूनियन के नाम से. इन्होंने ब्रांड खरीद लिया एंड नाउ दे मैन्युफैक्चर्ड अंडर देयर लाइसेंस एंड दे एक्सपोर्टेड अराउंड द वर्ल्ड.
Right.
So it's a huge market internationally. That's also the sort of stuff that we're doing now. So there's a lot of R&D involved. We've structured the business in a manner where Waggles and Purrs, Waggles for dogs and Purrs for cats, are the two pet food products that we manufacture. Apart from this, we're developing a portfolio of say around 20-25 products in a can for that are only for human consumption.
Wow.
Like tuna cans and salmon cans and crab meat and lobster meat. All being export. So we've spoken to a lot of people here at the fisheries in Karachi especially. और वही problem था उनके पास कि capability नहीं है उसको mass manufacture करने की. So you have local players like Mitchell's कि can sweet corn आते हैं, इस तरह की चीज़ें आती हैं, tomato paste वगैरह. They're based in Okada.
Really?
That's a little north of Lahore.
Yeah.
पंजाब में ही है. Now the problem is they don't have access to sea source.
Yeah.
Hence the wild catch जो आपके पास freshly आ रहा है, आप उसको process कर रहे हो, वो capability नहीं है उनके पास उधर. तो एक्सपैंड करने का ये रीज़न है कि अपनी प्रोडक्ट बेस भी तो आप ग्रो करें टाइम के साथ. दैट्स हाउ यू लर्न मोर अगैन इन डिफरेंट कैटेगरीज. बट दिस इज पाकिस्तान अगैन इज अ वेरी डिजायर्ड मार्केट काम करने के लिए. ऑस्ट्रेलिया इज अ गुड मार्केट फॉर अस टू बी टैपिंग इनटू. दे आर वेलकमिंग एक्सपोर्ट्स फ्रॉम ऑल पार्ट्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, स्पेसिफिकली दिस रीजन इंडिया एंड पाकिस्तान एंड बांग्लादेश. सो इट्स अ गुड टाइम टू बी टारगेटिंग फॉर एक्सपोर्ट्स. सो वाई जस्ट फोकस अगैन. बट द पॉइंट इज असद के इंस्टीट्यूशनल सपोर्ट के बगैर ना इट बिकम्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू बी वेरी फ्रैंक. हमने गवर्नमेंट ने भी टेक्सटाइल को सपोर्ट करा. आप देखो वेयर द टेक्सटाइल सेक्टर इज राइट नाउ. फूड प्रोसेसिंग में भी आई एम नॉट सेइंग देयर इज नो सपोर्ट, बट द फैक्ट इज कि देयर इज नो गैस इन द कंट्री. देयर आर वेरी सीरियस इश्यूज दैट वी कैन जस्ट लाइक नॉट एड्रेस, बट दे स्टिल देयर एंड मैन्युफैक्चरर्स नीड अ लॉट ऑफ सपोर्ट इन दैट सेंस के जिसको कंट्रोल करेंगे तो ही ग्रोथ आएगी ना.
And this is what, like, how are you still so long at this? Because like, you're it seems like you've got you're focused on what the potential payout or what the potential upside is going to be like.
Right. Nice. I like the two words that you use. This मैंने सोचा था मैं इसमें add करूँगा. Payout नहीं है potential, because once you're building something like this, there is no exit strategy in mind, right? Once you consider a payout, then you have an exit strategy in your mind.
कोई सेट खरीद ले basically.
Then you have an exit strategy in your mind कि यार अगर मेरे पास payout का मैं इस for example यार मैं cash out करना है $10 million for example. So at that marker you're like यार जब मैं ये बना लूँगा ना, that is my exit strategy कि मुझे यहाँ पहुँचना है and then I'm out. So with this brand in particular and this space that we're operating in, I believe कि यार adding stuff to the portfolio is important. Food processing is one of the things that we're doing. So once we started off we made quite a successful direct to consumer brand in a new category. So quite a few people approached us as well कि Waggles का e-commerce कौन manage कर रहा है, who's doing the digital advertising. We have a small team. We have a digital designer, an ATL designer, and just myself. So everything that's up on the website or anywhere on the social media or anything is something that I've written myself.
Wow.
So and it's not like
but that's where the experience kicks in, na?
Exactly. So you're doing content yourself. You are meeting distributors for export. So there's a lot of stuff happening. अगर आप मुझसे sense से पूछो ना कि यार which part of the whole process are you most involved in? That's one question where I'd be like, yeah, you have all 10 fingers dipped into
like,
10 different cans, basically.
no.
Essentially.
Yeah.
So that's the fun. And that's the spirit that I want to keep alive as well. It's easy to plug in कि आप resource onboard कर लो, वो manage कर ले, but that kills the spark. You get a little further from the process, and I just like to be in the trenches, basically. That's where the fun is.
And that's why I've also called you on, right? Because there's no clear answer also as to like, fuck payout, right? In a way,
Absolutely.
Like we can see that when it comes, it's great. We need a living, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kitchen should be running.
Yes.
Standard living should also grow as well. All of that fun stuff has to happen. But I'm not satisfied with what you're saying.
Okay.
And I'll explain why. Because you see, I feel like the business, and this, correct me if I'm wrong. When I was setting up a couple of years ago, I started doing my own like readings on startup land.
Right.
And I love listening to podcasts. And I came across a podcast जिसमें the host's name is Mike Maples Jr. He runs a show called Starting Greatness.
Okay.
And it was an episode about how a hardware startup versus a software startup cannot be treated in the same way.
Absolutely.
Right? Funding for both of them are very different.
Absolutely.
Right? The only difference is one seems sexy, which is the software startup, and the hardware startup is not sexy at all. Nobody wants to get into it, except when you see ticket sizes, they're massive.
That's when it makes sense.
Right? And that's also when you're seeing, okay, am I making the next semiconductor? Am I making some kind of chip that's going to come in to solve everything? Right? Like, look, right now, what are we living in? We're living in such a weird time where Toyota has to ration out who's going to get a key fob with their key.
Absolutely.
Right?
Bilkul.
So with their car, sorry. And the same applies to you also, is that you are in an industry which is purely manufacturing based.
Yeah.
And everyone now, after this whole slap in the face about globalization and world trade, where everyone's realizing, yes, self-sustainable, make your economy self-sustainable. You're in a vertical, which, yes, let's not talk about care. You know, like if for pets, is it for humans? You're manufacturing a good. It's food and bev in a way, and the opportunity for you is to sell abroad.
Of course.
But do people in the country also have that kind of awareness to see, is like, number one, this is something to invest in. This is something that's going to have a huge upside and huge growth potential. And number three, do you see also an opportunity where there could be a big collaboration or a big partnership for you as well that's going to really take the ease off of things as well?
Agreed. Bilkul.
You talk to any startup founder right now, the ugly truth that they want to, maybe I'm generalizing and I don't mean to be disrespectful to the founders out there. People are also looking for a quick exit.
True.
This is not a business that has a quick exit. And I respect you for saying or for agreeing with the fact that exit ka to naam mein nishan nahi hai na isme.
True.
But you also have to see it in terms of कि यार what is
as
actually,
a viable business plan. As a self कि आपकी interest उस पे involved है तो आप करके आ रहे हो, like
because
where you going?
with something like this, and if it's all banking on you right now, then there's the key man risk is on you.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying कि खुदा ना खास्ता कुछ हो जाए, but what I'm definitely saying is that 30 years down the line, when you've not just been exporting like 14 plus 10, you've been exporting like 100 new products for humans and pets alike.
Yes.
Right? And you think about so many different ways of distribution. You think about so many different types of product and innovation that can happen. So many different, like maybe it's all DIY in the future. How do we know, right? Like HelloFresh started off. Same could happen for pet food as well.
Absolutely.
But where is that time going to come is like when Rafae Dossal can actually step down and somebody else can take this forward, or this can actually grow and continue to sustain on its own.
Exactly. So the reason why I'm able to do what I'm already doing is because we've literally automated everything else. By automation, I mean we have key resources for everything else, which makes, for example, production. See, you're involved, but then again, there are people who are managing that. There's like a 14% team that's managing production altogether. You need to align what they're manufacturing, of course. But at the same time, you have people for local sales, you have a resource for exports. So when you have all of this in play, only then you're able to build brands and do what you're supposed to do, which is creating more products and reaching out to faster and more better markets. Local के अंदर I'd say कि juice नहीं है, in very simple terms अगर मैं कहूँ ना sense के अंदर, क्योंकि investor side के ऊपर बहुत समझ है इस चीज़ की कि long haul के लिए build करने के लिए ना I think इस साइड ऑफ द वर्ल्ड के अंदर ज़्यादा समझ है टू बी ऑनेस्ट. बिकॉज जो एक लॉन्ग टर्म सोच होती है ना कि यार इन्वेस्ट उस चीज़ में करो जिसके आपको रिटर्न्स अच्छे मिले. दैट्स अ वेरी हिंदुस्तानी एंड पाकिस्तानी एंड साउथ एशियन सॉर्ट ऑफ सोच उस सेंस में. फॉर इंस्टेंस 11% ऑफ द वर्ल्ड्स गोल्ड बिलोंग्स टू इंडियन वुमेन. सो देयर holding all that gold because they know it's of value, right? Food processing and stuff like this is a very capital rich business, and it's also an asset rich business,
and then highly levered.
Exactly. So it makes sense for people to be parking their money into this. And this is, I'm saying, because of the people that I've interacted with because of this business. There are a lot of private equity investors out there who diversify their portfolio. They're not that maybe, bullish on tech and software all the time. And they want concrete investments that are asset backed. So this makes sense for people to be, interested in stuff like this with young founders. Yes, क्योंकि एक passion होता है. एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इस स्टैचर की जिसमें हम अभी उसको एक स्टार्टअप लेवल ट्रीट करते हैं, इसके अंदर इतना रेड टेप होता है इन अ जनरल एनवायरनमेंट. So I mentioned a few brands earlier on. I met with their resources as well and understood कि यार इनका export value बहुत ज़्यादा है, volume भी बहुत ज़्यादा है. Problem कहाँ था उस केस के अंदर कि the red tape in the organization for them to launch something new takes them good 9 months or maybe even an entire fiscal year.
Yeah.
For us to bring something new to the market, it's like what, 3 months in total, because you have everything in play. You just need to research, test, and execute.
Yeah.
So you're very aligned on how you want to drive the whole thing, and it saves up a lot of time instead of wasting a lot of time. And what was the third thing that you asked?
I think it was more about you.
Yeah.
Key man risk.
Key man risk, yes, I'd say, but splitting the risk is also important. So, अब जैसे marketing वाला aspect है, that I'm looking after myself, but there are key members again in production as well, because when you're working with such quality कि आपकी chicken लाहौर से आ रही है, so that's, I can't be bothered about the fact कि यार वो रायवन से ट्रक निकला है, वो 4 दिन बाद यहाँ कराची में मलीर में पहुँचना है और वो पहुँचा नहीं है, for example. तो वो concern अगर मेरा भी हो ना और marketing भी मेरा concern हो, तो वो then I'm like crazy, of course. So we have a system that we've developed internally. This is something that I didn't learn, of course, but we did it and we learned that we need to have like a core member committee within the organization, and we need to sit this many times to discuss what new products we're doing. It's the same teams that's discussing new product development, local operations. So it's a very different stance कि आप कहो कि यार आपके पास responsibility is shared. So it's not कि यार आप एक top CEO founder type position के अंदर हो तो everybody is reporting. You work as a team member with the people.
How can you facilitate them?
Of course, it's mainly just about that, and it makes such a big difference into how the results are turning out. Because if you're sitting at the other side of the table with them, then it's different. Then there's a very strong reporting. Then data is also not being shared transparently. And that's when the problem starts. So being a key team member for the entire team to facilitate कि यार आप किस तरह से कर रहे हो, that I'd say yes is a key person risk as well. But that's how businesses are built in general. So you hire experts to do what they're good at, but you also make sure that the spirit of the startup is alive. That's essentially what is required at all levels.
So now I want to get a little bit more into about like you, right? In this whole equation. How big is the team?
Right now we're 28.
Wow.
Yeah, we're
all in Karachi?
No. We are the production teams in Karachi. There are 14 over here, and the other 14 are on the selling and distribution and admin side. So
where do you produce, in Korangi?
No, in Maleer.
In Maleer, okay.
So we have a facility in Maleer, and that is a relatively decent location because it's not based out of Karachi. It's still within Karachi की premises. So it's beautiful. Like आप यहाँ के seafood पे जैसे मैं इतना focus कर रहा हूँ क्योंकि cat food में बहुत potential है fish वाले variants में. At the same time बहुत aggressively हम export की तरफ उसके ऊपर चल रहे हैं. तो in cases के अंदर it's good to be manufacturing out of Karachi. Before we placed our plant here, we were deciding कि हमने क्या पंजाब में लगाना है because local raw material is somewhat cheaper over there, but the cost of transportation and stuff makes it easier to be in Karachi. Pet food की market, although अगर देखा जाए अगर local में तो majority is Punjab because you have Lahore, Islamabad and adjoining towns. So it's a cluster of small towns and 2 big cities that's driving the entire volume for the local sales. Because Sindh mein to you just have Karachi, right? Hyderabad and all these small towns are there, but they don't contribute as much as Punjab ke small towns. So that's a good market to be.
Have you seen any kind of like recurring revenue come in from cities outside of the big three?
Yeah, definitely. We have अच्छा हमने जैसे start भी किया तो we have 3 big distributors in Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad. We appointed a master distributor, but we did not continue with it. So we shortened it down to just 3 different distributors. It's just smart business. You give them more margin, they'll do more stuff for you. So instead of layering it in different ways, you just give autonomy to 3 independent distributors. And then they have their own smaller sub-distributors in these towns. The benefit of the sub-distributor is the fact that he's paid cash to the distributor, but you're running direct-to-consumer campaigns and ensuring that the product is selling in Sialkot, in Tandolayar, in Nawabshah, and in these small cities as well. So it makes, अब जैसे Sialkot, I did not expect Sialkot to be a good dog food market. I always anticipated the small dog से volume आएगा cat food का. But apparently dog food is also doing well over there, and that's a good learning for us.
Interesting.
Canned dog food ki market. And when I remember same time last year when I went to Multan and met the distributor over there, and he was like, yeah, this dog food does not sell. I mean, it's impossible कि हाँ canned dog food बिकेगा, यहाँ market ही नहीं है इस चीज़ की. Now touch wood, I mean, he's the guy who's buying a lot of stock from us every month. So it makes sense कि आप you take the risk and you make sure कि आप बस anal हो अपने उन processes के ऊपर जो आपने follow करना है. You can't miss campaigns. You need to just communicate and take feedback very seriously.
So in this whole experience, what was it that you felt like you had to really learn from scratch? And I'm coming back to what I said earlier about the past experiences kicking in over here. You just said you can't miss campaigns. It's a marketer's way of talking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You keep saying categories. You keep saying, well, you've said a lot of things. But like you have you know the advertising world really well. You know the marketing world really well. What was it that you felt was the challenge to really learn and accelerate at within the business right now? Don't say finance.
No, not at all. वो तो दूर तक नहीं था. Even today till finance, I'm like, यार वो reporting, I still treat it like एक third वो चीज़ है. That's like the headmaster, you know.
Like don't fuck with my vibe.
The
I don't need
CFO
to know
position
that.
जो है ना, उसका काम ये to like and being on the sales and the distribution and the marketing side ना, that person looks as us कि यार आप लोग बहुत खर्चा कर रहे हो या आप लोग you know आपकी cost बहुत ज़्यादा आ रही है और stuff like that. तो it's like even that fellow is उस सेंस में कि मार्केटिंग आप लोगों की बहुत ज़्यादा कॉस्ट कर रही है, बट वो करना ज़रूरी है. सो दैट्स माई जस्ट, तो इट्स ऑलवेज लाइक 3-4 पीपल लाइक पॉइंटिंग गन्स एट ईच अदर कि यार आपकी सेल्स नहीं है, तो मेरे ऊपर से भी वो गन चल रही होती है, आपकी मार्केटिंग बहुत महंगी है. तो वो एक मिक्स होता है फाइनेंस, इसलिए मैं थोड़ा
आप तो बस कंजूस हो रहे हैं.
हाँ हमारा ये स्टांस होता है यार आप इतना स्टिंजी क्यों है यार इस सेंस में.
Do you have like a proper CFO or
yeah. We have a very solid background. Kapanda was a chartered accountant.
Nice.
And that resource, again, investing in quality resources is important. If you try and cut corners in human capital, that's going to reflect on a lot of stuff. तो इस केस में भी जैसे जो एक्चुअल लर्निंग थी ना, दैट वाज फूड प्रोडक्शन, बिकॉज एडवर्टाइजिंग के अंदर आप फूड प्रोडक्शन के करीब भी नहीं होता है. मतलब आप सिर्फ फूड फोटोग्राफी कर रहे होते हैं प्रॉबेबली, एंड दैट्स अबाउट इट. बट जब ब्रांड मैनेजमेंट में गए तो बस 3-4 महीने में एक दफ़ा फैक्ट्री का विजिट कर दिया, कभी कर लिया, कभी टाइम हो गया तो कर लिया, कभी नई लॉन्च हो रही किसी चीज़ की तो चले गए, फैक्ट्री बलून्स लग गए, ओ माय गॉड नाइस, BTL एग्जीक्यूशन हो गई. बट किसी मशीन को आपने चाइना से मंगा के कमीशन करके उसका इंतज़ार करना है कि अभी कंटेनर में ये पहुँचेगी 2 महीने बाद, आप क्रेट खोलेंगे, वो मशीन लगेगी, इंस्टॉल होगी, आप उस पर ट्रायल रन करेंगे, R&D परफेक्ट करेंगे, प्रोडक्ट तैयार करके ब्रांडिंग रेडी करके लॉन्च करेंगे. ये पेशेंस जो है ना पूरा. सो यू आर ऑपरेटिंग ऑन द सेट साइड वेर यूर मेकिंग श्योर कि आपकी मशीनरी भी आ रही है और आप प्रोडक्ट भी रेडी कर रहे हो. एट द सेम टाइम आप एक मार्केटियर साइड से भी एज ए ब्रांड मैनेजर या एज ए मार्केटिंग मैनेजर भी आप इंश्योर कर रहे हो कि आपकी कैंपेन्स भी ऑन टाइम है, आपका कंटेंट भी ऑन पॉइंट है, इन्फ्लुएंसर एंगेजमेंट भी सही है, प्लेटफॉर्म सिलेक्शन भी सही है, ये सब कुछ चीज़ें भी चल रही हैं. तो अगैन वही पुरानी लर्निंग जो डिजिटल और जो मार्केटिंग की थी, प्लस द फूड का एक्सपीरियंस दैट इज कमिंग इन के फूड प्रोसेस कैसे होता है. आई मीन आई वाज शॉक टू लर्न द फर्स्ट टाइम कि यार आप एक कैन के अंदर फूड पैक कर सकते हैं विदाउट एडिंग एनी प्रिजर्वेटिव्स. आई एम लाइक हाउ द फक, दैट्स नॉट जस्ट पॉसिबल राइट. कि आप एक कैन पैक कर रहे हो,
कुछ तो तेल वेल तो डालेंगे, कुछ तो डालेंगे.
आपको क्या यार, आपको कि दिस इज लाइक आलू पालक for example, everybody has aloo palak, right? Or mixed vegetable like sabzi and carrots and stuff. You put it in a can, you put a lid on it and you process it in a certain way, and then you at the end of the process that can is stable for say like what, 10 years. That's
what
hard
do you
to
mean by
believe.
Process it, like you just like when you say process, you mean like actually the sealing process of the can?
The sealing is the process, and then it goes into a sterilizer basically.
Okay.
So it's a large size pressure cooker, for example, in which you place the cans all together. So it's a sterilization process in layman terms.
And overcooking, none of that happens?
Nothing like that. So it's अब वो हिसाब से रेसिपी भी होती है. A lot of times you cook it say like 80%, 90%.
Okay, because in the sterilization,
it goes up to such high pressure and heat कि वो बाकी 10% वहीं उसके अंदर वो हो जाता है उस केस में. So what you do is essentially कि आप अगर एक स्टेरिलाइजर के अंदर 1000 कैन जा रहे हैं एक टाइम में, तो 999 आपके एक्चुअल होंगे और एक के अंदर आप डेटा लॉगर डालेंगे एक कैन के अंदर. वो कैन आपको होगा बताने के लिए कि उस प्रोसेस या उस शिफ्ट के अंदर आपका टेम्परेचर सही गया था, इतने प्रिसाइज टाइम तक था, उसमें इतना बार प्रेशर अगर मेंटेन होना था तो वो मेंटेन हुआ. नाउ ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स केम आउट कि यार हाउ इज अ फैक्ट्री ऑपरेटेड. तो these are different things कि मैंने कहा this is different कि कोई कह रहा है bricks reading कितनी है इसकी like मैंने कहा इसमें पूछ लो ना पानी कितना है, that's very easy to
I
ask.
really want to come see all of this.
Of course, definitely, you're more than welcome to, man. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
For me, it was also an experience कि once the facility was built, it took a time कि पहले एक component add हो रहा है, कहीं की छत बन रही है, कहीं का फर्श सही हो रहा है, कहीं की दीवार पेंट हो रही है, कहीं steam की line डल रही है, तो वो करते कराते, but when it was all done and you just take a step back and you look at the place and you're like यार अच्छा, so nicely done यार, I mean like not bad यार.
कारखाना बन गया.
हाँ, दुकान बन गई.
दुकान बन गई.
sense में. So it's a feeling and a half कि यार शुक्र है कि you're contributing in that sense. Obviously, when you work with people in that sense कि आपको वो फिर motivate भी करते हैं उस direction के अंदर कि यार you need to see the larger picture. So I went to Dubai for Gulf Food for the first time. I've never been to Gulf Food before. So it's the largest food and beverage का event in the region, in the world actually. So I went there and I realized yeah, they're manufacturers from all over the fucking world, and they're selling everything that you possibly think of, plant-based protein and samosa, and then there's someone from Saudi Arabia selling khajur, and then there's someone from पाव भाजी बेच रहा है कोई इंडिया से आके उस सेंस में कि पैकेट में मेरी पाव भाजी है, थाईलैंड से कोई अपना टूना का कैन लेकर आया हुआ है, इजराइल से कोई लंचन मीट का कैन लेकर आया हुआ है. So it's a platform where you can actually perform and do really well if you have quality products and an ability to mass manufacture.
Wow. So this feels like a patience to tolerate all sorts of ambiguity was a personal lesson for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Bilkul.
But like when it comes to coming back to the actual question at hand, is that what is in terms of business division, what do you feel like you had to spend the most time actually learning and figuring out?
This particular part that I mentioned, because this was something that I was never exposed to earlier. Even when you're working on the brand side for other FMCG companies, your task is very task oriented. Your job is to ensure कि जो माल बन रहा है ना वो बिकना
You're
चाहिए.
expecting कि यार ये मैंने बस अभी बेचना है, right?
आपको अब जैसे अगर हम for example pet food import करते और यहाँ पे market करते, I could have had this pet food private labeled from any part of the world, say Thailand or Vietnam or China. आप उनसे pet food बनाएं, import करें और यहाँ पे उसको रिटेल करना शुरू करें. So all you need to be concerned about then is कि marketing सही हो और sales optimize होती रहे. ये तो आपकी फिक्र ही नहीं है ना कि वो बन कैसे रहे. But today I'm very grateful and thankful to the fact that we took the decision of going for the longer haul and being like we need to build a facility based here so that rather than importing and then reselling, you manufacture and retail. But again वही बात है कि अगर आप कोई चीज़ local बना रहे हैं ना, local import की substitute is amazing, very nice, but that's half the work done. Unless you're exporting, exports is the main contribution that you're doing to the.
And the thing is, I think this whole conversation is a testament to it's easier said than done.
Of course, yes.
But you just have to really be focused on that.
You need to be focused, and it's. I don't believe in the fact कि यार again बहुत cliche बात नहीं है, लेकिन वही चीज़ है कि it's literally nothing's impossible. But if a person like myself can start something of this sort and still be with the organization and lead a team and build products and understand consumers and be talking to people like you, so it makes sense. ना यार कि it can be done provided that you just actually put your pedal to the metal. I mean, it's just as simple as that.
So I have two questions. I won't take up too much of your time. Business-wise, and maybe not entirely business-wise, but more for you, what do you feel like comes first? Is it, and what actually came first for Waggles? Was it first product, development, design, or marketing?
That's a good question. But I was always fearful of the fact, see, there are people who want to market first, then sell.
Yeah.
Right? I was always of the view that you first know what you're making, you know if it sells or not, and then you start selling. So for me, the product comes first. ऐसा नहीं अजीब सा लगता है उस सेंस में सोचते हुए कि यार you're just selling something that you don't even know of, right? Or that's something that you haven't even developed. So in our scenario, I was being a very safe runner. Na, I always played the safer bets. I was. It's funny that I'm saying this. You're playing safe bets, but even with this, I've always been like, यार claims हम बहुत ज़्यादा extend नहीं करें. Even though कोई regulation यहाँ पे है नहीं पाकिस्तान के अंदर that's overlooking pet food या animal feed की है, pet food की नहीं है. तो PSQC जो इदारा है उनके साथ हमने मिलके उसके वो स्टैंडर्ड बनाए कि यार कैंड पेट फूड होता कैसे. तो जब वो स्टैंडर्ड बना, दैट्स व्हेन यू रियलाइज कि यार दिस इज द स्टैंडर्ड दैट वीव मेड. सो व्हेन यू लुक एट दैट entire scenario, you're like, अच्छा, if you don't follow these steps, no other person can do it on the legal proper way के अंदर. तो it made sense कि यार हमने उसको slow लेके चले लेकिन सही से करा. तो the product for me comes first and the marketing then of course is to follow.
Okay, and based on this same, like right now, this also translates into do it once, do it right.
Of course,
Right.
yes.
But it also seems like that's the same approach that you took towards your path to scaling, your path to
Yes,
growth as well. And it
yes.
seems like
So
that's
along the way, whenever we like building the facility, इतनी transition हुई ना कि पहले आप outsource बन रहे, फिर उसके बाद in-house production हुई, फिर in-house में expansion होती गई. लेकिन along the way, quality के ऊपर जो focus रखना था ना, that was a pain point. क्योंकि आपके वेंडर्स का भी चेंज हो रहे हैं, आप लोकल मीट से आप डायरेक्ट KNN पे चले गए, आप ह्यूज ट्रांजिशन
yeah,
टू इंश्योर कि आप स्टॉक लॉस ना हो. ऐसा ना हो कि आपके पास स्टॉक ही नहीं है और आपने वेंडर स्विच कर दिया और नया वाला दे नहीं रहा आपको स्टॉक.
yeah,
यू डोंट वांट टू गेट इनटू दैट शिट
yeah,
बेसिकली. सो यू टेक इट स्लो बट यू मेक श्योर कि यू आर डूइंग इट राइट. As long as your quality is on point and your channels are being sorted कि आप
But
customer तक
did
पहुंच
you have these milestones or these benchmarks laid out from the beginning? No.
It would be a lie to say कि यार हमने इस तरह सोचा था कि ये KPIs पे इतना परफॉर्म करना है. That's total rubbish. I believe कि जिस पॉइंट पे हम रेट्रोस्पेक्ट में ही जज कर रहे होते हैं. फॉर अ पर्सन लाइक मी, आई एम ऑलवेज लाइक यार लिटरली ऐसा लगता है एक टांग आपकी पास्ट में, एक टांग आपकी प्रेजेंट में, और फ्यूचर तो आप सिर्फ अपनी पास्ट परफॉर्मेंस पे बेस कर सकते हो ना कि अगर आपने क्या सीखा. द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज द लर्निंग दैट यू गेटिंग आउट ऑफ इट बिकॉज इट्स कॉस्टिंग यू रियल मनी.
Yeah.
So if you're not learning from your experiences, you're going to learn.
Yeah.
There's no defining.
But it's about like what informed decision are you choosing to make
हाँ
now,
बिल्कुल.
right?
और आप कितने सस्ते में सीख रहे हो बेसिकली. तो यू कैन एक चीज़ आप एक रॉन्ग गलत सौदा आप कर लो, आप 10 लाख रुपए में सीख लो, वही चीज़ आप 1 लाख रुपए में भी सीख सकते हो.
Yeah.
तो आप कितना स्लो चल रहे हो, एट द सेम टाइम कितना अग्रेसिवली आगे की बिल्ड कर रहे हो. सो इट्स लाइक वन लेग इन द पास्ट,
Yeah.
वन लेग इन द प्रेजेंट, एंड you're just judging your future based on your past performance. Literally, it's just like that.
Wow. So yeah, Rafae,
I sound philosophical.
yeah, well, actually, I think this whole conversation is getting me to think about like, I wish I called you early on, also, you know,
No,
because
this was lovely. This was lovely.
Because like, I'm feeling like number one, I can't believe you don't have a pet. Number two, I can't believe you didn't do this earlier.
True.
Right?
True. Everything happens at the right time, I guess. Though.
Did you think you were gonna like do your own thing in the future?
Actually, again, not. I was very happy with the way life was going because back when in university, it was very sorted कि यार graduate हो जाएंगे, फिर उसके बाद शादी हो जाएगी, फिर बस brand manager बन जाएंगे, फिर बस general manager बन जाएंगे. मतलब एक flow है ना. You don't think out of the box. But when things went south a little on the personal side, that's when I realized कि अच्छा यार अब तो responsibility नहीं है. I'm like a free bird.
Yeah.
So I might as well just take a flight to the fucking moon or do something of that sort.
Yeah.
So that's when the whole part started and I went all in with it. मतलब उसमें कोई doubt ही नहीं था कि you jump in with both feet and you land out somewhere basically. So you either land on your feet or on face front, but you land somewhere.
Yeah.
So you need to take the first step. And had we not taken the first step, we would not have been here, right? So you see where the path goes, but you need to be very true to the journey and not like waver left, right.
I was trying to find a nicer way of saying this, like a more cleaner English way of saying this. Have you seen Guru?
Yeah.
आप केला सिल्क बेच रहे हैं.
हाँ बिल्कुल.
ये वही कहानी मुझे लग रही है.
भाई बात सिंपल है. अगेन वही इसको ज़्यादा वो नहीं करेंगे उसके अंदर, लेकिन हाँ एग्जैक्टली ये कि यार आप बना कितने में रहे हो, बेच कितना में रहे हो, बीच में कितने पैसे बन रहे हैं. इट्स जस्ट एज सिंपल. अगर उसको बहुत फैंसी हम वर्ड्स डाल दें उसके अंदर या उसको वो कर दें तो इट्स गोना बी लाइक.
बट आई थिंक if it's about like what words you want to put into it, one thing that has to stay consistent though is the passion side of it.
Definitely.
That's like you can. I think I'm getting from you also is like you also wouldn't be this invested emotionally, personally, physically if there was no like sense of passion associated with
definitely.
this.
So it started off and it's not a marketing ploy or a founder ploy कि मैं कौन sense में यार you want to make animal health better.
Yeah.
It actually is true. मेरे pet नहीं है तो उसमें क्या, but you like यार अगर एक चीज़ available है, आपको पता है वो substandard product है, वो import भी हो रहा है,
Yeah.
तो आप टक्कर देना उसको, मतलब क्यों नहीं है.
Yeah.
अब लेकिन हाँ शुरू में जो बात थी ना, we started off with 2 million rupees. सही है.
Really?
Literally.
Okay.
And we're north of like 200 million now.
Wow.
So had I known at that point in time कि यार ये इतना FMCG, इतना scale और इतना investment और इतना capital, I would have been like यार fuck it, कुछ और करते हैं, कोई ऐप शायद बनाते हैं, थोड़ा सस्ते में शायद पार हो जाए, कोई पैसे दे दे. But सही था यार. I mean along the way फिर it made sense कि आप खुद भी finance करो उसको, उसमें और invested भी रहो और बस लगे रहो basically.
Good, yeah. Good. So Rafae, last question for you before we wrap this up. If you could go back in time and meet your younger self, sorry. If you could go back in time and meet your younger self, what would you say to him?
Interesting question, Asad. My very interesting question.
Would not meet my brother.
No. I would say, yaar, I wish I knew how important time was, to be honest. Because I turned 30 very recently. And I realized कि यार एक decade गुजर गया पूरा, मतलब 20 से 30 was a journey, to be honest. I mean a lot happened in it, for the good, for the bad. There was a lot of learning. But time की importance is something that I realized, yeah, this is something we take for granted, पहली चीज़. And for some odd reason, when you travel as well, आप देखते हो यार लाइफ की urgency कहीं और दूसरे मेट्रोपोल सिटीज़ के अंदर ना अलग होती है. जो हमारा एक जनरल एज अ यूथ डोमिनेंट कंट्री जो एक चिलिंग है ना ओवरऑल एक हवा के अंदर कि बस हो जाएगा या देखा जाएगा या बस वो नहीं देखा जाएगा. बिकॉज अगर आप खुद नहीं देख रहे हो तो कौन देखेगा आके, एक बात है. तो इट्स नॉट कि आप बस पढ़ाई अच्छी करो या वो अच्छी करो, बट द पॉइंट इज टाइम को सीरियस लेना बहुत ज़रूरी है. बिकॉज वैन यू जस्ट लिटरली स्प्लिट अ डेकेड इनटू 4 क्वार्टर्स, आप 2.5 साल की बात कर रहे हो. आप एक साल को 4 हिस्सों में ब्रेक करो, आप 4 क्वार्टर की बात कर रहे हो. So there's just 52 weeks in a year, right? So when you break those 52 weeks in 52 tasks, you're like, fuck, I mean, time is flying.
Yeah.
So realizing the importance of time, I'd say, is something that I go back in time and be like, yeah, सीख लो बेटा कुछ प्लीज, थोड़ा सा जल्दी सीख लो. बट शुक्र है यार, it's been for the good and it's just coming along fine. शुक्र है.
Great यार. This was actually one of the
full
fun.
बाबाजी वाला मैंने उसको आपको दिया है ना.
But first time somebody saying that.
Really?
I've heard.
What are the most common ones that you've heard? वैसे?
I would change nothing.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well, and I understand that. Like great people have said that as well, but that was one of them. The other one was go easy on yourself. फिर क्या था?
Achha, this I need to learn. This I need to learn.
Go easy on yourself. Yeah, story of my life too. The difference is I decided to make a show
YOLO
out
वाला
of
side
it.
होता है ना, YOLO नहीं होता यार. ये YOLO में it's like यार भाई मतलब you just
exactly no YOLO, which is why you better like get all this shit done
exactly
and do it properly.
True, very true.
But yeah, go easy on yourself was one of them. Go don't be afraid. Yeah, don't be afraid. All of the nice things that we realize when we are. I'm sure you like have people around you that you also sometimes coach or mentor as well. So you say all the nice things that you want an elder brother to say to you. The pep talk. That's basically what comes up. But yeah, this was a great answer. I'm gonna keep this. I'm gonna keep this. I'm gonna remember
Importance
this.
of time.
Yeah, and not spoken of as often. We say take things slow, take things easy. But
also not spoken of a lot of times is mental health. To be very frank. I mean, especially in founders, and क्योंकि एक stress level ही अलग होता है. Obviously, you can relate.
So I had 100%, and I actually had a great episode with Vladimira Brzezinska. She is the founder of Neem. Yeah. So she came on, and we only spoke about founders' mental health.
Amazing.
You should actually check that one out.
Yeah,
and it's also about like how culturally we need to change things within the environment. But then I don't know if you have any like business partners or co-founders as well.
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Yeah.
How many are you guys?
We're 3 in total, but they're more on the silent investment side and just involved in the top line or the bottom line, ki quarter mein kahan hai and stuff like that.
And my biggest takeaway from that episode was that be open to having that vulnerable conversation amongst the team.
Yes, absolutely. वही है ना कि यार रियल कॉन्वर्सेशंस हम जनरली लोग नहीं करते हैं. और लाइक क्या हाल है, कैसे हो, ठीक ठाक, टॉपिक ओवर. सो देयर इज नो डीप कॉन्वर्सेशन एक्चुअली रीचिंग टू द रूट कॉजेस कि यार व्हाट्स कॉजिंग द स्लीपलेस नाइट्स फॉर एग्जांपल, और वेयर इज द प्रॉब्लम, और लाइक वेयर आर यू हेडेड. फॉर एग्जांपल इफ यू आस्क समवन वेयर आर यू हेडेड, दे विल बी लाइक कुछ और बात कर लेते हैं ना. आई मीन
oh shit now.
हाँ ये अल्लाह बेहतर करेगा. एंड लाइक ठीक है, दैट फाइन, दैट बिलीफ इज देयर, बट आप क्या कर रहे हो is the question.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that basically.
Man. But dude, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Asad. This was amazing. I'm glad we spoke like this for quite time.
I think this is the first time in a
we've had a conversation.
Yeah. The first time maybe ever.
Yeah, true. That too on a podcast, on your podcast, man.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate you coming on, and I want to come to the facility and check it out also.
Of course, you're more than welcome.
That was Rafae Dossal. If you've got pets around, dogs, cats, or you just want to feed your younger brother, then Waggles is the place. Yeah, they're human friendly too. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Fingers crossed, more to come, more consistency to come from this as well. Till the next one, take care. Bye bye.